Spotlight, lectures and performances on and around Albany State University.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Black History program sponsored by the Department of History and Political Science at Albany State University. Thank you for making the time to come and celebrate Black History Month with the department. It is a pleasure and a rare opportunity to have a father and son team to present today. Our hope is that each of you will acquire some valuable nuggets from today's presentations that will inspire you in appreciating the African American culture nationally and persons of African descent globally. Again, welcome, and we hope that you enjoy the presentations. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my distinct good fortune to introduce our guest speakers for today, who are an amazing father and son team that have shaped and influenced the United States Navy in unique and measurable ways. Commander Claven Williams is the father, who was born in Sylvester, Georgia. He received his bachelor's degree cum laude from Albany State College, Albany, Georgia, in 1972, and was commissioned into the United States Naval Reserve after completion of Aviator Officer Candidate School in 1973. Over the next 21 years, Commander Williams engaged in a plethora of extraordinary duties in the Navy that included completing his department head tour in Oceanographic Development Squadron 8 in Paxton River, Maryland in 1978, and serving as Commander Officer Professor of Naval Science at Savannah State University through 1994. Currently, he is the Military Liaison Coordinator for Albany State University and was married to the former Gloria Brown, deceased, of Sylvester, Georgia. The son, Lieutenant Commander Christopher S. Williams, is a native of Savannah, Georgia, and graduated from the United States Naval Academy in 2001 with a degree in mechanical engineering. In January of 2004, he was designated a naval aviator. In March of 2007, he reported to the Rough Riders of the FA 125 as an instructor pilot. In 2011, he earned his master's in military studies at the Marine Corps University. Lieutenant Commander Christopher Williams has amassed over 1,700 flight hours and over 320 arrested landings. Without further delay, please welcome them. Thank you.
I want to thank Dr. Woodward for that arousing welcome and introduction of both myself and my son. I'm no stranger to Albany State or to the Southwest Georgia areas, as she's already let you know. I was born here in Worth County. I went to school in Worth County, and I matriculated here at Albany State University in mathematics and chemistry, and I later went on to, during my second tour on active duty, to get a master's at North Carolina Central University and Duke University, where I was an instructor at the Navy ROTC unit there in career counseling and placement. It was time to get away from the math and science, and career counseling was really refreshing. And there are a host of things that I've done while I was on active duty, but most of all, regardless of where you are, and when I talk to audience like yourself and you have questions about, well, what should I do here, or how do I get from here to over here, the main thing is academic excellence. If you're not sure of what you want to do, what you want to do in order to get to where you want to go is to do the very best that you can in the subjects that you're taking. That way, when you put in your resume to try to procure a job or try to nail down a job, what those employers are looking for, they're looking for the best of the best that you have to offer, that Albany State has to offer, or what North Carolina Central or Savannah State has to offer. So I've been on both sides of that as a student leaving Albany State to go into flight school or into the Navy, and also in the Navy at Recruiting Command Headquarters, where we screen all the applicants coming in to join the military. And more times than many, there were African American and minority applications that came up, and we had to lobby our operations department to make sure that those records got a critical look, because a lot of times the kids were majoring in scientific curriculums like engineering, mathematics, chemistry, or whatever the case that may be, and you end up the students will stay at them, and they get, I use the term, they get eaten up by them. You end up with a very low GPA, and what the employers look at once you get out and apply for a job basically is what you did in college, that transcript. That transcript is like a fingerprint, and if you got a poor transcript, it's a hard sell. So I was the minority assistant to the admiral who was over recruiting command, and it was our job to make sure that those records got a critical look. And in more times than many, we were able to turn around a lot of rejects because we could find something. And when I say we, the guys in my office, it was the two of us, Commander Betancourt, who's also, he's retired now, but he went on to become an admiral. We personally briefed these records to make sure that little things that our operational people didn't look at were taking a critical look at, and we were able to get students in that would have never come in through the mainstream procedures that we had set up. And once given an opportunity, the young people really did an outstanding job once they could get in the door, but sometimes it was too hard just getting beyond those critical entrance requirements that not only the military but the civilian job or human resources people have, and they don't take a good critical look at the whole person concept. So with that said, I can only encourage you, whatever curriculum you're in, I understand that we have students in majors from history, political science, probably in computer science, just across the board. Do the very best that you can do in those subjects. And that's what Workaday America looks at, that transcript, once you get out from here. And unfortunately, in our culture, you can't take a back step and say, well, okay, I'm going back into college or back into high school and I'm going to redo that. You can't do that. Once you get out of high school or college, that transcript is there, and that's what stays with you. So that's why I emphasize doing the very best that you can do academically from day one. There are very little opportunities for what we used to call late bloomers, you know, somebody that comes in and after a while they catch fire and they really excel. You have to be excelling from day one, because the competition is not local, it's not national, it's worldwide. You're competing with individuals from all over the world for jobs. So that's why I stress, do the very best that you can in whatever subject or curriculum that you're in, and then the rest sort of falls in place. If you haven't found what your niche before you get out of college, it's sort of, with that academic background, that academic excellence, it sort of takes care of itself, and it'll propel you into a career field in you know, outside of the college life. Some of the things that I've done, we were given a little short list to talk about some things that we've done. Oh goodness. I was in the Navy for 22 years, and a lot of the historical stuff, if you remember Chernobyl that blew over in Russia, we were doing flight ops out of border Norway and anywhere there was ice, because the second squadron that I flew in, we were mapping ice. We did ice mapping, we did magnetic variation mappings all over the world. And we happened to be in Norway when this thing blew, and we were up in the jet stream without being told, being exposed to a lot of that radiation. But anyway, be that as it may, I can go on and on with significant things that have happened over the 22-year period that I was in the military. But going through the military training, if you can make it here at Albany State University, it's no different when you get into flight school or when you get into nursing, a supply corps, or whatever, than it is here. The same study habits apply. If you got good study habits here and it propels you through your college career, it'll also propel you through flight school or any other follow-on school that you'll have. And you're going to have people that are going to be telling you all along the way, hey, you ain't seen nothing yet, it's real tough up here, I don't think you'll make it. But don't let that distract you, because basically that's someone who's trying to embellish themselves to make themselves look bigger, better, smarter than you are. But stay the course. Stay that same course that you had when you were in high school, college, with the study habits, the study routine. I'm not saying don't party. You know, all work and no play makes all of us dull. When I was in college here at Albany State, Friday night, my books were gone. I was right over here at Hazard with the partiers at the little elementary school. It used to be on campus here. When I was in flight school, there was a place called the Corners down in Pensacola. Friday nights, that's where I was. But late Saturday afternoon, if I knew I was having tests or whatever on Monday, I was back in the books. And if I wasn't having a test or something, I could probably go until Sunday morning before I got in the books. But that's something that you have to know, and you have to be able to make those sacrifices. I had buddies that partied a lot, but they ended up with what we call speeding boards. They were smart as a whip, graduates of Morehouse and other well-known colleges and universities around the country, from Purdue to Yale to Stanford. And sometimes they partied a little bit too much, and the little lesser-known schools like Albany State, where I graduated from, I knew when I needed to study. I knew what time of the morning or evening that I needed to get in those books. And it works. Trust me, it works. There's no way around it. If you get caught up in all this other stuff, I don't care how smart you are, the obstacles will trip you up, and before you know it, you back out on the streets. Because they don't baby you. Once you get out of Albany State and you get into flight school or whatever you get into, one of the terms that we used to use, the guys used to say, it's like drinking out of a fire hydrant. It's coming at you hot and heavy. 2 years of flight school, they used as an equivalent of about 4 years of the university type of studies that we had to go through here at Albany State. But you can do that. Same study habits you use here, you apply them to wherever you go, and you can be successful. With that said, I'm going to let my son get up here, because you all can probably relate to him a lot better than you can an old guy like me, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers.
Thanks, Dad. Well, good afternoon. Dr. Woodard, thank you very much for having me here, and all the faculty and staff. Professor Campbell, hello. I see you out there. It's a pleasure. It's an opportunity, and a great opportunity, just to come have the opportunity to be able to speak to you guys. I asked my wife before I came down here. She asked me, what are you going to talk to him about? And I was like, I don't know. I haven't really figured it out. And she's like, well, what did you want to hear when you were a sophomore and junior in college? I was like, probably nothing. And hopefully my teacher gave me some extra credit if I came to the speech. So hopefully you guys are getting extra credit for being here. And hopefully I won't hold you guys up too long. So hopefully it's more than 15 points to get there, right? All right, cool. Hey, in late 2007, I found myself playing a role of a human cork in the Pacific Ocean. It was about 10:30 at night, and it was very cloudy. It was an overcast night. The sea state was about 10 feet, meaning I was going up 10 feet and down 10 feet, about every 5 to 7 seconds. I had just ejected out of my F-18 that had just given me fire indications over the Marianas Trench, which is one of the probably the deepest portion of the mapped ocean that we know about. I was 200 miles away from the closest island, which if you're familiar with the Pacific Ocean, that's all it is just a bunch of little rock islands out there, and there's not much there. I remember it just like it was, like I was still in the water. I was about 250 miles southeast of Guam. I remember sitting there thinking, next to my raft as I got in there, is, A, how am I going to get into this raft? And B, how far can I actually swim before I just get tired? At that moment, I knew I had the rest of my life to figure out how to save my own life. Good morning. My name is Lieutenant Commander Christopher Williams, and I am a naval aviator. My education, as you already talked to, Dr. Woodard already went through, I'm a mechanical engineer from 2001 grad from the United States Naval Academy. I have a master's in business and a master's in military studies. I'm 32 years old. It's an opportunity, the reason why this opportunity is so special to come talk to you guys is because I feel like I'm at a crossroad in my life where I still relate to you guys. I still rock my Lil Jeezy and Drake in my car to and from work, but it's just at a little bit lower volume in my Prius, so not on 20s. But at the same time, I can actually still relate to the professors and the doctors of your staff, having had 11 plus years in the workforce with hard work will get you and what is needed to get out there and do hard work and to succeed. There's not many people of color in my career field of choice. To be a fighter pilot, it definitely takes a special breed of people. But I'll tell you that I'm no more special than anyone in this room, and I've never ever thought that I was better than anybody or more special than anybody. But I did know one thing, and I was always a competitive basketball player, and you can get with my dad, or you can get with me at the court at about 5 o'clock this afternoon, and we can figure it out who's the best. I will outwork you, and I'll outwork anybody in this room if you challenge me. And that's the attitude that will make you successful. And that's one of the things that a path that I'm gonna lead you down quickly and not bore you, because more than 3 minutes, I lose focus, and so I know 2 minutes you'll probably lose focus. One of the things I want to kind of tie into is the time of month that I came to talk to you guys. It's February, right? So it's Black History Month. What is Black History Month? What does it mean? Why do we celebrate Black History Month? And this is an open question for you guys. This is not an all give. I'm going to take a little bit from you guys. What does it mean to you guys? Why do we celebrate it? Anybody?
To recognize the achievements of our heritage, our predecessors, and those who came before us.
Okay, so to recognize the achievements of those who came before us. What else? I know I got a lot of professors in this crowd, so I should get some answers from somebody. What's that? So we got one from the front row, pay tribute.
You don't know where you come from, where you came from, you don't know where you're going to get, you can repeat the same thing over again instead of advancing and moving forward.
So that's a real interesting point that I think is sort of getting lost on probably my age group and a little bit younger. So our generation, we are the same generation, the students in here and me. We're not, the professors, they're not our generation, they're older than us. So we are the same generation. So I would submit to you that it's an opportunity to reflect. I think someone hit upon it. It's an opportunity to reflect. But not on the success of single moments, but of the years of preparation prior to that moment that granted the success. That's the critical part. If the moment that Rosa Parks is sitting in the back of the bus is important, all the preparation that led up to that culminating point is critical. That's the critical mass that you have to understand. How you actually got to that point, to have the moral courage to sit on the back of the bus knowing that you're going to get thrown off. Or one of the popular pop culture things that's in the movie theaters, Red Tails. I personally take one, opposition to Red Tails, the movie, and I haven't seen it. I've just read reviews and I've read the books and I've done a little bit of history because I am legacy, and aviation is very, very important to my family and what's happened. In Red Tails, they tend to portray a story of African-American aviators that they were these really talented cowboys that went out and did a paramount thing that no one ever thought they could ever do. But I kind of take opposition and I kind of take a point against that to the fact that Charles Chief Anderson, the chief instructor pilot that was at the Tuskegee Institute, that guy was a commercial pilot, and he executed the first transatlantic pilot by an African American in 1933. Benjamin O. Davis, Jr., he's the son of a brigadier general. He was the first West Point African American graduate. The point I'm trying to get to you is that those guys just didn't happen to just fall into a situation where, I guess I'll be successful today, and neither will you guys. These guys prepared and they persevered and they were ready. So when success found them, they found success and they made it happen. Nothing's going to be given to you in this day and age. Quote unquote, the field has been leveled for you, if you believe that. People probably will tell you different. If you catch me offline, I might tell you different. You have to work hard and be able to achieve those moments when the opportunity presents itself. So that's my tie-in a little bit to Black History Month, and I think it's appropriate. Now, I know I got a little bit of political science majors, and I got some technical majors, and I got some history majors, which is good because that's kind of me. I'm a little bit of technical, I'm a little bit of history, and I think all of that stuff is great. And why is that stuff great, and why should you all make yourselves very diverse in those fields? Is because maybe 20 or 30 years ago, it was okay to just go to a college or a university and come out with a bachelor's degree and just one thing and be, single dimensional. But today, being a one-trick pony won't get you very far. You have to be very much a multi-dimensional critical thinker in order to succeed and be an asset to whatever you do. And for the record, I'm not here to recruit you into the Navy. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was sitting in the seats. And quite honestly, my wife will tell you, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. So I'm just here to tell you a story of me, and hopefully you pull something out of it and relate it to your own life. So a critical thinker. What are the key components to be a critical thinker? Anybody? What was that again? I'm sorry? Knowing how to think outside the box. Open-minded, that's good. Analyze situations. Okay, analyze situations, open-minded. One more. Being able to think on your feet. Okay, think on your feet, open-minded, and knowing your situation. Okay, I like those. What if I tell you, what's the difference between analysis and synthesis? Like the same. It's the same. Wait, so where did I get that from? Okay, so it's the same. Who else? You say no. Challenge them. What do you think? No, that's okay. This is a tough one. And you'll present this question, and you'll probably think about this, and you can call me later on it if you want. My interpretation of analysis and synthesis is they're two separate things, kind of down the same path. If I ask you to analyze the World War II and tell me who won, you'll come out and you'll tell me the Allies won World War II. If I tell you, and you'll probably pull some data out of it, and you'll say, they won because, because they won. They had a lot of numbers. But if I ask you to synthesize, now I ask you to synthesize that data. Now I want you to formulate some sort of meaning out of that data. So what if I just took your blood pressure and I just told you it's 5,000 over 6,000 in kilometers squared inches mercury cubed? Does that mean anything to you? But I just gave you some analysis though. So does that mean anything? What if I told you, hey, you have high blood pressure? What does that mean to you? That has meaning to you. I've just synthesized that data for you, and I've gave it meaning. As a critical thinker, you have to be open-minded and be an open system to be able to accept new ideas that you hold true, and maybe some bad ideas that you don't hold true, in order to challenge yourself and everyone else out there, to make yourself better. That is the critical component to being successful, is preparation, perseverance, and being a critical thinker. If you guys can master those, which I'm still looking for it, you guys can call me and let me know what it is and how you did it. But those are the three things I kind of want to just impart on you, is to please work hard and seek education through those means. Listen to your teachers. I know that sounds cheesy and cliche-ish, but you only have this opportunity to liaise and talk with them for a finite amount of time until finally it clicks on. And it doesn't click right away, and I promise you it won't. There are a lot of situations where I look back and I remember I had a high school teacher who used to use the saying that she was just throwing pearl to swine, and that never meant anything to me until I actually got out of college and I understood what she meant metaphorically, is that she's throwing great wisdom out to us and we're not accepting it, or we're not accepting it right now because we just don't understand it. But you don't have to understand it right away, but just take it on board for what it is and stash it in your library or mental library or whatever, because you will use it. You will use it. And if you don't use it, somebody else will. Remember that. And I'll stop talking, and I'll take any questions from you guys that you guys would like to talk about. And if you guys want to ask me, okay, go ahead.
What's the minimum age to get information?
I'm sorry, one more time, sir?
What's the minimum age and the maximum age to get information from military?
You have to, I'll give you some pointers on that. I've been through recruiting command and all that stuff. So one of the prerequisites that you have to have in order to be a military officer is a 4-year degree from an accredited institution. So that'll put you right at 22, 21, depending on when you got out of high school. So there you go. You have to have, there's also a time frame that if you don't make it, you have to look at a waiver, and I think that's, you have to be commissioned before you turn 26 or 27 without waivers. My bad. You hear the voice, but you don't see a face. Yes.
You mentioned you were bobbing up and down like a court for however long you were. I mean, what, that's like a test job?
I wish it was a test. We were actually operating, doing operations off the carrier, and we were flying, and we were doing just a routine training mission, and I ended up having a fire in my Hornet and ended up punching out, or ejecting. We like to call it punching out. So I ended up ejecting in the water, and as I wished it was a training event, it was a training event, I guess you could say, to see whether I wanted to survive or not. So, but I'll say I passed. How about I say I passed the training event?
How long was the bob?
I was in the water for about an hour and a half.
Well, the significance of that is some of the waters that we flew over, and if you had to ditch or if you had to eject out of an aircraft, the time, your life expectancy was within minutes. Because of wind chill and water chill factors, you weren't going to survive it. We knew that. So fortunately, he was off the coast of Guam, 250 miles. It's not that frigid. So he was very fortunate in a number of ways. When I got the news, when his wife called me, when my daughter-in-law called me and said, hey, Chris just had to eject out of an aircraft, and he's okay, he's safe, he's back on the carrier. My thing was his career. So I got on the phone to Washington, and it took us from July through Thanksgiving of that year to get his career back on track through the boards, the tests, the psychological testing, and stuff like that. It's an $85 million aircraft, so the system doesn't look favorably on losing something like that. So you have to deal with it. You have to deal with it for what it's worth. Is he worth keeping around? Is he worth going to bat for to get him back in an aircraft? And it was a long, drawn-out process, and it could have gone either way. But I had been there, done that. I know the system. I know the politics of it. So I called some guys in Washington that had a lot heavier, more stripes than I did, and said, hey, you need to get involved with this. And they did, and the rest is history. You see him here now. So, yes, sir.
In 5 words or less, what did you learn from that experience, sir?
5 words or less, what did I learn from that experience? Let me choose my words carefully, hold on. Give me 1 second, give me 10 seconds. What I learned from that experience was is that your decisions matter. Those 2 words, decisions matter. Every decision that you make matters. And you can imagine my outlook on life prior to that versus my outlook on life after that is a little bit different. you take for granted a lot of things, but one of the things you can't take for granted is making bad decisions or making good decisions. You have to be responsible for your decisions that you make, and there's consequences for those decisions. And you have to take responsibility for them. And hard work always leads you to be able to make good decisions. So that's kind of what I learned. No other questions? Oh, okay.
I remember that when you were doing your bio, you said you went to the Naval Academy, and
I did.
some of us may not be familiar. I'm a Marine Corps veteran.
Yes, sir.
So I know that that's no piece of cake. How was the experience for you? Was it difficult?
So yeah, that's a great question. So the question was about the Naval Academy. How was my experience at the Naval Academy? And oh, by the way, I'll repeat all your questions so that I can phrase them in the way I want to answer them. So, no, my Naval Academy experience was, it was interesting. I had a family who was a Golden Rams through and through. I had a mother who was a Golden Ram. I had a father that was a Golden Ram. I have an older brother, well, my only brother, who was a Golden Ram and then went to Georgia Tech as well. So I had a whole family that I lived through Albany State homecomings. I remember coming here when Poison Clan was the group for homecoming. I mean, it's crazy. That's way, I dated myself, but it's way back. And I remember when my brother used to come down here and thinking it was the coolest thing. You know, he's 5-6 years older than me, being able to hang out with him on campus here before the flood. You know, so I got to live a life that experienced a little bit of Albany State before I went to the Naval Academy, and getting to see the rich tradition and history here. Going to the Naval Academy was a really, really different experience, where just the demographic difference is extraordinary, where this is a historically black college university. The Naval Academy, there were African Americans made up, I think we were 3 to 5%. I knew everybody who was African American in my class, and we had a graduating class of 978. So you can do the math in public, 3 to 5%, so there's not a lot of us there. So that's a good thing. It's a good thing all the way around, because it prepares you for life, because life is a mix of people. It's not a majority of anything. So when you guys leave here, you'll go and relish that and understand that, hey, it is a mix of people, and everyone has to get along to get along. My experience at the academy as well is I played college basketball. I had a chance to play Division I basketball for 4 years. I had the chance to go to the NCAA tournament, March Madness, played North Carolina in the first round. Of course, we didn't win, but I got a nice T-shirt and I guarded Vince Carter. But I was too proud to get him to sign my shoe, which I was a knucklehead, and so that shoe probably would have been worth more money. But anyway, my experience at the academy was great, but it was different, but it was great for different reasons. So I wouldn't share it or change it for the world. What it took to survive the Naval Academy is the same thing as it takes to survive Albany State. Actually, if you catch me on the right day, it's tougher to survive at Albany State than it is at the Naval Academy, because at the Naval Academy, they coddle and comfort us so much because they want you to succeed. So they set up lots of rules that keep you on a path, a much closer path than they would here at Albany State, where you're in an environment where you are forced to do your own laundry and make decisions and go to class if you want to and learn if you want to. That wasn't an option for me. And in some points, people cease to mature and grow up because they were told to do so much, whereas you guys are learning how to grow up and make those decisions on your own. And that's an important part of coming to school here, is making those decisions.
But tell me about your high school counselors. They had a lot to do with that, didn't they?
Yeah. So like my dad, he when he stopped wanting to play soldier or Navy, he decided to be a guidance counselor. And so since I was a rock star in my high school playing basketball, I got him a job there as my guidance counselor. So so he helped me, and that's important. You'll always have available resources to guide you, and they're out there. It's just on you to look to utilize those resources. And sometimes you may not know where they are, and you have to seek them. And that's a sign of initiative, and that's also a sign of maturity. So hopefully I hit your answer. Hopefully hold on, did I get your answer?
Yes, very accurate.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, I wonder, how well was Albany State able to prepare you for the academy? And are there things that you think the teachers probably can do to prepare the students better? You think that maybe you were not prepared very well, or prepared very well? What are the pluses you want to share?
So could you state your question one more time? I'm hard of hearing.
Yeah, because you have teachers here, you have students. And you said that demographics, that was a part of the major difference. Okay, now, this environment, I wonder how well you did prepare you for Never Academy.
Let me take the first part of that, Chris.
Can do to prepare people better, or do you think that they are very well prepared to transition into the new environment?
Let me take the first part. First part of it, Albany State does not prepare you for the Naval Academy. Albany State is parallel with the Naval Academy. You either go to Albany State or you go to the Naval Academy. They're the same. You know, you're getting a 4-year degree or whatever. A different twist on that question is how did your high school prepare you? Because that's where you're coming out of, going into the Naval Academy or into Albany State.
Yeah, but your life after Albany State and where other institutions where you say you mixed the demographics was more Caucasian. So what institution was that?
The Naval Academy.
That's what I said.
Right.
So
Okay.
going from here to Naval Academy into that type of different environment, how were you prepared for that?
So the way I see your question is, understand your question is how did the Naval Academy's demographics prepare me for post when I graduated?
So how was it? You were here, you came to
No, I never did.
I thought you had.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you.
Yeah. So yeah, I never had the opportunity to come here. But like I
There's
said,
some experience in here that
I do a lot of underage partying here at Albany State. But sorry, what was the question again? I'm sorry, yeah, one more time.
Women,
Are the women naval pilots?
Oh yeah, that's
Yes.
a great question.
Yes.
So are there women naval pilots? Yes, there are. But so you're looking for the numbers-wise percentage. There's not a lot.
probably less than 1%.
Yeah, women naval aviators make up probably less than 1%. It is very, very small, and it's a area in the demographics that I think, and remember, I only speak for me. I'm not the Department of Navy representative by any means. This is my opinion. I think the Navy is seeking to diversify themselves in that area. They want to attract more minorities and women, for that matter, into naval aviation in different.
Well, they don't permit women to fly combat missions.
They do.
Oh, do they?
They do actually.
So it's just the Marine Corps that's doing the wicked things.
The Marine Corps tends to be a little bit behind the times, but that's okay. we love them anyway. But yes, women aviators. I've flown in combat operations with women aviators, and there's. I'll tell you this. This is my 2 cents on women or anything like that, or any sort of discrimination. The airplane doesn't know and doesn't care. So, and I've seen some of the best. I won't say I've lost at any training fights to any women aviators, but I don't lose at all. But I've seen very good from you name it. As soon as they take the helmet off, you'll be surprised. Stereotypes are bad, okay? Of any manner are bad. I mean, just in the senses we use them to kind of get us through life, and they're necessary because it's hard to process everything. It's hard to not look at something and not have an already constructed frame of what the background or what that person's about to do, but it also sets you up for a situation that possibly could be misunderstood about the capabilities of what you're assessing. I'll say that.
Now, we said that the women probably make up less than 1% of the aviators. So you're looking at a huge pool to pull from. So guess what? you're going to get the best of the best that's in there that are going to usually apply for those positions. And my wife, bless her soul, used to say, they don't want to be one of the guys, they want to be one up on the guys. And there's some tough customers. I mean, you know, you got to bring your A game when you're going up against a lady who's competing for, when you go through flight school, you have a wish list after you finish, and based on your grading, your grades that you've made, and all those things, your military grade, your academic grades and all that, will determine what platform you get out of there. And of course, the top of the class usually gets the jets or whatever they want, and then somewhere below there, you get the prop guys like me and the helicopter guys. But it's a tough game, and when you are going through training, that's why, like you're here at Albany State, you got to do the very best that you can. You can't say, well, I'm going to do better 6 months from now, because it's too late. You got to do it from the very beginning. Yes, ma'am.
No, no.
How did you decide you wanted to do like the music? Come from work out, come from the, I'm from here, so I never really.
You're from where now?
Sylvester.
Okay. Here's the deal. I went to school here at Albany State from 1968 to 1972. What was happening then? Across the bridge, you had Dr. King, the civil rights riots and all that, those things that were going on. My first experience with Albany State and going over the bridge was that anytime that we went across the bridge, the police followed us everywhere we went. So I only went over there maybe once in the early days. But to fast forward to 1972, or actually 1971, when I was actually recruited for the Navy, as most of us, well, most of you don't know, had a race riot on one of the carriers that shut it down. You're talking about a war machine that has over 5,000 people, 100 to 200 aircraft on board. You shut this thing down, that's a major event. And one of the reasons they found that caused this was that they had an inordinate number of enlisted African Americans and very few officer African Americans. So the Navy was doing some changes. They had a very young Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Zumwalt, that said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Go out into the highways and byways and find qualified African Americans to come and become naval officers. I got caught up in that recruiting frenzy. I was scheduled to go to grad school out at Washington State. I was already set up, and the recruiter came on board with his Fly Navy Camaro. I think it was a 1971, 72. I mean, the coolest guy you ever saw. Fred Espy, he was a graduate of Georgia Tech. He flew in Vietnam. He went through both pipelines, the pilot pipeline, which is my son, the navigator pipeline, which is myself. He had both wings. So when Fred came on campus, everybody listened. Now Fred was a big partier. He was good. I think he had wrecked at least 3 of those Camaros trying to get away from guys who were chasing him because he was dating their girlfriends or whatever. But that's how I got caught up in the Navy. That was my experience.
Well, I remember you mentioned you were saying in high school, you know, you were trying to find out what you wanted to do. What made you like declare the Navy, whether more of your dad or just more that's what you wanted to do?
That's a good question. So the question was how did I find myself in the Navy, you know, from high school? You know, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I did not know what I wanted to do. But one of the things that's interesting is that, you know, as I reflect back to figure out, well, how did I find myself here in 2001, graduating from the Naval Academy? And I'm reading a book, here's a side story, called Sources of Power. It's a great book if you're interested in learning how to learn how people make decisions and how you make better decisions as decision makers. And one of the things is it says that people, most of the time, typically it looks at firefighters and people who make decisions that have huge consequences at the spur of a moment. But it says that most decisions are made based upon experience, because experience shapes our perception, and what we view as our perception shapes our decision making at the moment. I think it did help that my dad was in the Navy. I saw a lot of the Navy I grew up essentially in a Navy family, and I saw airplanes all my life. So it was kind of natural for me to go down to the Naval Academy, and I was able to play basketball and all those things like that. But your question is one of the hardest questions I think that some of the top leaders today in the Navy organization are trying to figure out is how do you get qualified minorities who live in small pockets to come in, because they're just as good as the ones who live in Washington, D.C. or Atlanta or California and San Diego. But the problem is you guys don't get touched by it and don't get to see it as much.
And one of the things that, and I got you there, one of the things that I've been working on since I've been back here since '06, has been bringing aviation into the Southwest Georgia area. We have aviation awareness days in April of each year for the last 4 or 5 years. I was doing it before I was even hired to come over here and work at Albany State. So if you're aware of something and you know more about it, then you're more likely to say, well, yeah, that's not so bad, or that dispelled that myth that I heard over here about, you can't fly if you're black or whatever. And one of the things that Chris he hasn't touched on just yet, and I sort of gave him a clue to go into it. Your counselors and your teachers, we call them centers of influence in the military and recruiting. I had a lot to do with Chris going to the Naval Academy because my wife and I both knew that he was a free spirit. I mean, if you didn't put bounds up, then he was going to set his own. And I knew that if he went to the Naval Academy, whatever he did, there was a consequence for whatever action. And so, as his counselor, each time that he was recruited by some other institution, and I saw him leaning in that direction, I got on the phone and called the Naval Academy and said, look, you guys need to come down here because Chris is leaning toward DePaul, or Chris is leaning toward UNC Chapel Hill. And they will immediately get down there because one of the ways that you get into the Naval Academy, there are several ways to get into there. The most known way is to go through the politicians and they recommend you and you get their endorsements and all that. Chris was a very fortunate kid. He was a 4.0 grade point average kid coming out of Benedictine Military School in Savannah. He was a 3-star athlete, sports athlete. And the Naval Academy, boom, you can't find an African American like this every day. And so they were really on top of him. Plus, he playing basketball, the hardest thing that my wife and I ended up doing was spending money to send him around the country to play in these little leagues or whatever so that the coaches and people could see him. And that's when the Naval Academy saw him, and they really wanted him in the worst way because he could succeed at the Naval Academy. And Chris did an article, and I still have it in my office. It says Benedictine 3 sports star headed to Annapolis. And in that article, I've had it put the plastic up because I keep it. And in that article, he says, I made my own decision. My dad didn't have anything to do with it. My mom didn't have anything to do with it. And I let him keep that belief. But the real story is, I was always behind the scene calling that Naval Academy and saying, you guys need to get down here. And that's how he really ended up at the Naval Academy. Yes, sir.
You may find this interesting, Amanda, to kind of piggyback on something that you and your son were saying. I went into the Marine Corps in 1979. In basic training, my battalion commander was a black Marine Corps officer. He was a captain.
Right.
For 3 years of Marine Corps service, that was the highest ranking African American Marine I saw, and they were few and far between.
Right.
I was serving at the Marine Corps Air Station New River for helicopters in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and I saw a black colonel walking across the street at Officer Housing. I crossed the street to salute him.
Thank you. I was in Pensacola going through training, and the highest ranking African American that I had seen was a lieutenant or a captain equivalent in the Marine Corps. And one day I saw a lieutenant commander on base, and you sort of gravitate toward him, like you said. And I go running over to the guy and said, look, man, I'm glad to see you. I've never seen a senior black officer like yourself. And the guy said, well, hey, don't get too excited because I'm what they call a CLO, a campus liaison officer. What those guys did, they were appointed by the Navy to be centers of influence on campuses like Albany State, and they were given the rank of a lieutenant commander in '04 right off the bat. So the guy said, well, yeah, I'd like to help you, but I don't know a lot. I just put this uniform on.
If you guys gotta leave, maybe Dr. Wood would probably be mad at me later, but please take off if you don't have any, But this is very informal. I think we've gotten.
Yeah, and please ask your question, because it's not every day that I'm going to pay for my son to come down here and do this talk. This came out of pocket.
We appreciate y'all being here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, there's anything. Are you guys all out? Oh, all right.
I know that you mentioned that you had graduated from Albany State in
72. Good year.
Through that generation to upcoming to this generation, do you feel as though this generation respects Black History Month?
That's an open question, and it's, it could, each individual, I guess, has their own. And my answer to that is, I think the generation of today is just as respectful of Black history or African American history as any generation that I've seen. A lot of times you hear the remarks that y'all are the now generation, you want everything right now. And that's not a bad thing, because that's the way the world is moving. When you look at computers, when you look at a lot of things, I'm an old school guy. I believe in going into the bank and doing my money transaction. My sons and my wife, they do all that stuff on the computer. And I could go on with the things that I do, not because I can't do it differently, but I choose to do it that way. And as human beings, we're creatures of habit. That's the way I grew up doing it, going in the bank, doing things this way and that way. And some things I choose to do, other things I don't want to be bothered with, and that's just me. Unless, if it's life-threatening, yeah, I'll change a habit. I'm not going to go down the Primrose path and get jammed up. Does that help? Other question? Like I said, this is your dime. It's not going to happen every day. We're here for you. We were that thorough. We answered every question that you may have had. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dr. Woodward, it's your show.
Audience, please, let's give Commander Williams and Lieutenant Commander Williams a round of applause for all of their conversation today, for their presentation, their response to your questions, and their presence.